Happening, everybody? It's Brent Axe here, and we are live on the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page. Coming off the heels of a pretty dreadful opening game for the Syracuse Basketball Orange as they lose to Virginia 48-34. We are here on this Thursday night, about to become Friday morning. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health. If you are watching this later on YouTube, appreciate that. For those of you that are joining us live, thank you for that. But just know that we do put this conversation up on YouTube as well, so you can watch it on demand when you want. A historically bad season opening loss for the Orange. That is the lowest amount of points, 34, that Syracuse has scored under Jim Boeheim, period. It's the lowest amount of points they've had in a game since scoring 35 against Penn State way back in 1948. And let's just put this into context a little bit more. Syracuse scored 34 points tonight. In the game before this on the ACC network, Cole Anthony of North Carolina, who is one of the best players in the country, we saw that tonight. He is going to be electric to watch this season. Cole Anthony scored 34 points. He scored the same amount of points as the entire Syracuse basketball team. I don't want to have to go through it for you, but we have to look at just how a historically bad offensive performance comes together. So Syracuse shot 13 of 55 overall against Virginia. That's 23.6%. A team that we heard is going to shoot a lot more from three-point range this year. Syracuse did shoot a lot more from three-point range, 5 of 29 from three-point range. That's 17%. On the night, only got to the free throw line 7 times. Not a lot of fouls, not a lot of free throws. The game flowed. Syracuse only had, I believe, 9 turnovers in this game against a really good Virginia team defensively, a Virginia team that lost Guy, that lost DeAndre Hunter, that lost all the key players from that national championship team, that didn't really play that well themselves offensively, but certainly did enough to beat a historically bad Syracuse offense tonight. The Who's out-rebounded the Orange 47-28. That is going to be a major issue for this Syracuse team early on. We saw Boeheim appears to be healthy, but the interior defense for Syracuse was dreadful. It was just absolutely dreadful. Anytime Syracuse even had a shred of offense in this game, all Virginia did was go inside. Diakite, one of the key players that remains for Virginia from that national championship team a year ago, certainly their best player this year, went inside time after time. It seemed like he had more points than this, but finished the night with just 12 points, 6 of 10 from the field. He had, he had 9 rebounds. Looking at the wrong thing here. He had, give me a second here while there it is. He had 6 rebounds on the night. Key had 10 rebounds. Clark had 11. Clark had a heck of a game, played all 40 minutes, 10 points. 11 rebounds, 7 assists on the night as well for Clark. For Syracuse, again, hold your nose here. A lot of guys just had really bad nights. Marek Dolezaj played all 40 minutes. He scored 4 points. He went 2 of 8 from the field, chucked up a couple of bad three-pointers, did have 9 rebounds on the night. Elijah Hughes was the only bright spot, I'd say, for Syracuse, but even then, he had 14 points, 4 of 14 from the field. 3 of those were from three-point range, 3 of 10 overall there. Boeheim played 22 points. He got into foul trouble early, came back in, ended up with 2 points and just 2 rebounds on the night. Buddy Boeheim really struggled for Syracuse on the night. He scored 7 points, 3 of 12 on the evening, 1 of 8 from three-point range. I mean, we can go on and on here. Jalen Carey, who appears to be an early candidate for Jim Boeheim's doghouse, he plays 18 minutes, scores just 2 points. He goes 1 of 6 from the field. It was interesting to see Joseph Girard III get in, the Glens Falls, New York State all-time leading scorer. Played a lot in this game, played 22 minutes, scored just 3 points on a three-pointer off the back iron, 1 of 6, but certainly brought some energy to the table. His feet never stopped moving, a guy who can facilitate on offense. But as we saw tonight, you get Virginia in the first game of the year, a team that you're obviously going to see again down the road and represents a kind of team and the athletes you're going to see in the ACC. Girard looks small out there. He's going to have a hard time getting his own shot off against teams in the ACC. Syracuse could not set picks tonight. They could not move around tonight. Jim Boeheim even just saying in his press conference that he did not do a good enough job of getting the team to move against Virginia, who is one of the better defensive teams in the country, pack line defense and all, but this is the first game of the year. This is a Virginia team that's got a lot of new starters out there, and a Virginia team that didn't play that well. I mean, for Syracuse to pick this game to have the all-time bad offensive performance they did, give credit to Virginia's defense, but there were some shots that were just chucked up lazily, were just chucked up, for the sake, and this is what Virginia do. This is what Virginia does. They break your will, and they make you take those bad shots, but it spread like a virus through this team. Excuse me. Nobody could get going for Syracuse. Quincy Guerrier, a player a lot of people are very excited about, a player I still think can be very good for this team, was awful in his debut for the Orange, played 13 minutes. He took a few three-pointers, couldn't get going inside, couldn't facilitate where Syracuse really needs him to inside, did not grab a rebound in this game. I mean, I can go through more here, but you get the picture. This was terrible. One guy you don't see in the box score, and I didn't get to watch all of Jim Boeheim's press conference, so I'm not sure if this was asked. But I don't know why Robert Braswell didn't play in this basketball game. This is a kid that can shoot the three, certainly could have helped you down low, could have attacked the boards. You're getting pounded inside. Marek Dolezaj's having an awful game. Robert Braswell needed to play in this basketball game. That to me was a big question mark early on here for Syracuse. There's a long way to go, and we know how stubborn Jim Boeheim can be with his lineups at times. There's always a reason. Maybe there's something happening in practice, but it's a guy that by and large seemed like he was going to earn an opportunity to show what he can get. Maybe he will, but I'm not sure why he doesn't get in this kind of game where you kind of needed all hands on deck to spark something, particularly inside. So that's the story from the Dome. Just an embarrassing, dreadful start to the season. And, hey, guys, didn't you get the memo? The football team's been playing bad. We kind of needed you to lift us up a little bit. We needed you guys to kind of pick up the slack a little bit. I said it. Cole Anthony from North Carolina scored the same amount of points as the entire offense. I mean, the football team scored 27 points against Boston College in a dreadful 58-27 loss last weekend, and you only scored, 7 more points than that in this game? You had 6 exhibition games, get ready for the season. And Jim was saying it in the presser. It was very predictable that he would say this, that you shouldn't start with an ACC game. And he said, to his credit, I guess, that he would feel that way even if Syracuse won. Yeah, okay. That's easy to say after you lose this kind of game. I thought it was pretty exciting that you started with a game like this, kick the season off with a bang. There's 2 extra ACC games this year. You got to play them sometime. I understand the theory of getting a few warm-up games in before you play a team like this, but Virginia, this is not the same Virginia team that walked off the floor as national champions. They had 4 players to replace. It's their first game of the season, too. Listen, I thought it was a great idea to start the season this way. Obviously, Jim disagrees, and that's what Jim's going to do. What Jim's going to do, he can say he feels that way all they want if they won, lost, or anything in between. But, it just sounds like sour grapes after a dreadful start to the season. Long way to go, though, as they say. Let's see what you guys are saying about how things will get better, if they will, going through the season. Appreciate everybody staying up late with us here. Game started on time, ended on time. Thank goodness for that. North Carolina Notre Dame game before that actually ended early. I'm not a huge fan of these 9 o'clock tips, but tonight seemed to work out well. Hey, there's my man Jeff DeVeronica. What's up, JD? Axe need Carey out there to drive and kick. No open looks at all for Syracuse. Doesn't he seem like, Jeff, an early candidate for Boeheim's doghouse, that kind of impatient, you can only make a couple mistakes before you go to the bench kind of thing? Gerard came in. We saw a little bit of Bryson Goodine come in. There's 4 potential players that could round out the position. I still think Howard Washington Jr., who did not play tonight, is is an odd man out, and we're just not going to see a lot of him in this year. We're not going to see a lot of him this year at all. But Carey is interesting because he's quick, he's fearless. He'll get in the lane. He's willing to do it, but he just doesn't have that developed shot. Boeheim said he's got a 15-footer. We didn't see it tonight. We're going to need to see it from this guy, but there just was a general lack of movement, period. No drive and kick, no movement, couldn't set ball screens. And again, part of this is you're playing Virginia, and it's tough to do that. They are relentless on the defensive end, but obviously a dreadful night for the Orange. RJ saying Boeheim complaining about playing first game as an ACC game just made this worse. Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, and Kansas didn't complain. That is a fair point, RJ. Jeremy says Virginia's Clark dominated the boards. What a dominating center. Oh, wait, he's a 5'9" guard. Yeah, and that's what Syracuse is going to need, Jeremy. They're going to need their guards to rebound. It's going to be kind of a rebound by committee because Boeheim didn't hit the boards tonight. Certainly Guerrier didn't hit the boards tonight. Nope, Marek didn't even. I mean, to be fair, Marek did have, 9 rebounds on the night. Somebody had to do it. He had 9 rebounds for him, but that's pretty much the only thing he did out there tonight. It's going to have to be rebound by committee at this point. They don't have an inside presence. They don't have an inside presence defensively, certainly. They don't have an inside presence on the offensive end, at least at this point as well. I think Guerrier can get there, but certainly we have not seen it quite yet. Joshua saying Buddy will be good next year. Joe saying utterly awful, outplayed and outcoached again. Rob checks in to say Virginia's defense was impressive midseason form. Our offense moved too much east to west, not enough north to south and inside and out to push the tempo and create better shots. I don't know if we have the guard play to really do that at the same time. And maybe I'm trying to stay on the side of optimism, but this game just felt funny, like more of a dress rehearsal effort than the effort and approach needed to compete with a top 15 team. It certainly wasn't about 21,000 and change in the Dome tonight. Star-studded affair. Carmelo Anthony came back for this one. Very interesting outfit that he was wearing on the sidelines, but he can pull that off. Dave Bing was back for this game. Number of media dignitaries back for this game. A couple big recruits in the building as well. Not only basketball-wise, football-wise, Cade Fortin, who is transferring from North Carolina, looking for a new spot to land, has visited Syracuse the past couple of days, was in the building tonight. So they didn't really see a good basketball show. They did see some good basketball players, the GOATs of Syracuse basketball, Dave Bing and Carmelo Anthony, sitting there courtside. Matt saying, doesn't appear that the Cuse has anyone who can take it to the rim. They'll be easy to guard again this year without someone who can do that. Yeah, and that's the thing. They've got 4 guards, and you would think somebody could do that. It's certainly not Girard. He's not a guy that can penetrate. He's more of a shooter. Underrated passer, though we didn't see it tonight. I think Bryson can do that, but he's got to get comfortable. It's got to be done in the right spots. Carey has flashed that ability, but what happens is he kind of gets ahead of himself. It's almost like that scene from The Matrix where, Keanu Reeves is kind of ahead of himself and he's all over the place. Carey's just got to let the game settle down, see what's happening. He is fearless. He will get inside. He just can't finish at the rim at this point. Lane saying Buddy needs to quit rushing his shot. Yeah, that was uncharacteristic tonight. And they couldn't get sets. They couldn't get screens. The pick and roll wasn't working. And that's Virginia. Virginia's just that good defensively, but they couldn't get any of that. No one could create their own shot. So that's what starts happening, Lane. You start rushing shots. You start shoot, right? And you're just trying to get anything going on the offensive end. And as we saw, it did not happen, and it did not happen at all. Another comment about Buddy from Antonio. It says he can't handle the ball and seemingly can't shoot the ball. Carey and Girard should start and play. Forcing Girard to play the point defeats the purpose of a great 2. That is a fair point. He's not a point guard. He is a 2. He can play the point if you need him to, but he's not really a point. He's a 2, and you want him at the 2. You want him off the ball. You want him catching and shooting. You can get rid of the ball quickly. One of the quickest shots I've seen at Syracuse, and I know it's the easy comparison, but it's the right one, to Jerry McNamara. It's great that he's willing to run the point and showed a great handle and showed that, maybe he can put a little life into the offense, but he's not a point guard. And you got 3 other point guards out there that someone has to take that role. Rob asking, in your opinion, with Melo there, is Carmelo being blacklisted from the NBA? No, he's not. He's not being blacklisted. I don't know why. I don't know what he's done or why you would blacklist the guy, why you would intentionally conspire to keep him out of the league. He's just done as a player. His role as a player just doesn't fit. And I think there's a concern about his ego. There's a concern about, can he take a secondary role? Can he be a bench guy? Can he be somebody who can contribute as opposed to being the guy? I mean, Melo, I don't blame him for thinking this way, by the way, has been that guy his entire career. I don't think, and he said he's willing to do it. I'll take his word for it on that, but he'd be on a roster if he could help the team. He'd be somewhere. So maybe there's something I don't know. People in the league talk, and there's all sorts of things behind the scenes I'm not privy to, but I don't think he's being blacklisted at all. Matt makes a good point here as I'm looking through the comments. Girard did look small. That's why you need him off the ball. That's why he can't run the point against a team like Virginia. Can he run the point against some of these teams in the non-conference play coming up? Yes. He can't run the point game after game after game, even if it's in spots in ACC play. He needs to come off the ball. He needs to create, he can't create his own shot. That was a concern about Girard. He can do a lot, and that's a player you take a leap of faith on, but he did look small out there and that's Virginia. That's one of the bigger, more physical teams in the league. But, you're going to see a bunch of ACC teams where I think you're going to be saying that about Girard. Gregory saying, do you think we'll get more from Hughes? Hughes is going to be that workhorse, Gregory. He's going to be that guy who was Ty's battle last year, and there just seems to be every year that one workhorse, that one guy that's got to do a lot. It certainly was Hughes tonight. I loved he had one three-pointer. I'm sure you guys saw it. It was kind of a sidestep, crossover three-pointer. He looks much more polished there. He's willing to kind of fake and drive at this point. I thought we'd see him handling the ball a little bit, not so much. We saw it in exhibition play, but Boeheim pretty much left it to if it was Carey who was in, if it was Joe Girard who was in. Elijah Hughes did it a couple times, but not as much as maybe I thought we would. But you don't want to work him to death either. Last year and the year before that, you just had three guys that you just drove into the ground playing 40 minutes a game. This looks like a team where you don't have to do that. So we'll see how that develops. Old habits die hard, particularly from James Arthur Boeheim and his habits. But there's some players that can help out there. So it's going to be curious to see how that goes. And again, I'm just not sure why Braswell didn't play. Josh saying, Jesse Edwards, too little, too late. Josh, Jesse's an intriguing prospect. Mike Waters, Donna DeToda, and I did a podcast the other day. Pardon me. I almost knocked the computer off the table. We did a podcast the other day. And Donna loves Jesse Edwards. She thinks he can help this team now, likes his touch, his athleticism, his ability around the rim. He's just raw. And as we saw tonight, he's kind of skinny guy. And can he battle inside? I mean, Virginia is a very physical team, but just in general. I think we're going to have to find out. Because look tonight, for example, Barama Sidibe had 2 early fouls. You don't have anybody else that's working inside. You don't have anybody else at that position. You're trying to keep Marek away from playing the 5 as much as you can. He actually started tonight over Quincy Guerrier at the 4. So we're going to need to see what Jesse Edwards can do. I'm curious defensively, and with Boeheim, it all comes down to defense. How do you rotate in the zone? How do you play defense? That's what's going to get you on the floor. Maybe that's why Braswell's not out there. Was he a liability in Boeheim's mind defensively? He should have been out there tonight. That's a guy that I think should have played in this game. As Jeremy says there, it's a shame Braswell was not utilized, not even a minute. I'm stunned. He didn't even play a minute in this game. I shouldn't say I'm stunned, honestly. That's kind of par for the course for Boeheim. There's just always that one guy that is hard to impress the big man and get in there. And I don't know why it's Braswell, but we shall see if he gets an opportunity going forward. Jeff says, from what I saw, develop Edwards, tired of waiting for Barama. Yeah, the thing with Barama has been, excuse me, that he's had knee tendonitis the past couple of years, right, Jeff? So you always kind of had that, excuse or reason or however you want to phrase it. Jess, I brought it up. Donna loves Jesse. She's seen a lot more of him than I have. She went to Italy with the team, and she sees potential there. So I can't really disagree with that. I can't disagree with a lot of your suggestions out there tonight because they only scored 34 darn points. Stan asking, what's your biggest surprise from tonight? Just that, Stan. I mean, to be honest with you, to go out there and shoot 13 of 55, to only score 34 points, even against a really good Virginia team. My second biggest surprise is Braswell didn't play. My third biggest surprise is that everybody, just fell apart tonight. And I know it's early in the season, but to have just a complete, utter no-show like that is stunning. That's not the Virginia team that won the title. That's a good team. That's a Tony Bennett coach team. They're always going to play hard defense, but that's their first game of the year too. And Virginia was not that impressive, by the way. If Syracuse could just get some kind of just a competent offense going tonight, they might have won this game. They might have won like a 50-48 kind of game at the Dome. But to have one player at North Carolina score as many points as you did tonight, I guess the good news there is there's nowhere to go but up, right? I mean, let's try and be positive where we can. Lane saying that Barama just isn't big enough to play the 5. Agree with everyone on my guy Braswell. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. And if he comes out there and looks bad and not ready, something's off, can't rebound, can't play defense, I'd like to know. I'd like to see it and not just take Boeheim's word for it. He sees practice. He sees a lot more than we do. But I don't get in that particular scenario, knowing he can hit the 3, knowing how much you're struggling inside, knowing the spark you needed against that team, that he doesn't see the floor at all. I mean, I don't get that at all. A couple more comments here. And let's see. Rob notes that I love the 2-3 zone defense. I'm not a fan of those who believe hardcore that Syracuse should play man-to-man all the time. Pardon me, but would it have been worthwhile to give it a test run at times tonight? That's always the million-dollar question, right, Rob? And with this team, probably not. They're just so young. They're so raw. Maybe it'd be better for them in some ways because you're learning a system. You're learning a zone. The pack line defense seemed to work okay for Virginia, but I think that could have gone worse for him. The press did work. It did spark him a little bit, but I don't know. I believe in the zone. I'm a believer in having a philosophy and sticking to it and embedding that in your head as Virginia did. But, again, there's not a lot I can say no to, right? Suggestions, welcome. Where's the suggestion box? Because they need a bunch of them for this upcoming season. My guy Ben noting here that interesting we didn't see more Goodine. He and Girard definitely ramp up the movement on offense, if nothing else. Can't disagree with that. Blake saying too many bad shots, bad ball movement, standing around too much. That has been something that has really puzzled me with these teams, that there is a lack of movement. There's a lack of space. They're standing around a lot. Certainly, there's not as much, to use a football term, play calling built into Jim Boeheim's offense as other teams. He doesn't like to complicate things, but you got to do something because that's what ends up happening. And we saw it last year when you have an ISO guy like Tyus Battle. When you have this year, it's Elijah Hughes. But there's weapons on this team, and standing around is just not something that's going to work. It doesn't work, period, but particularly for this team. The one guy who doesn't, though, and I'll give him credit, is Joe Girard. That kid's feet are always moving. He's circling around. He is always trying to make something happen. I mean, he's going to wear himself out if he keeps doing it at this point. And again, it's got to be in a 2 role. It's got to be in a complementary role, playing the point at times. And hopefully Goodine can develop, as Ben noted. So they have 2 options at that position because clearly Jalen Carey is going to be on a short leash as we go. John asking, will this team live and die by the 3? It seems to be the plan right now. And tonight they certainly died by it, right? All right. I'll tell you what, why don't we wrap it up there for this evening? Really appreciate you guys coming by. We'll be doing this not every non-conference game, okay? Just so you guys know, we're going to pick select conference games. So just kind of hang out on Facebook after games, see if we pop up. I know we're going to do it for this game. I think we're going to be back next week for Colgate, Georgetown, some of the name brand non-conference games, Iowa, Oklahoma State. So we'll do select non-conference games for the live chats. We'll do every ACC game. So look out for us here. Look for it on YouTube if you miss it live after the game, thanks to our friends at Krause Health. So we're looking forward to another season of this. Looking forward to reading all of Mike Waters and Donna DeTota's great coverage, Chris Carlson. My recap will be up first thing in the morning as well if you're watching this live. My recap goes up the morning after the game. And lots to come, including the great photography from our friend Dennis Nett as well. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Bad start for the Orange. We'll see where they go from here, what adjustments will be made. And by the way, kids, Colgate is not a pushover. That's a good basketball team that's favored to win the Patriot League. And they could come in and give Syracuse a real punch in the nose next week. So we'll see how the Orange get ready for that one. In the meantime, thanks for hanging with us here on Facebook Live. Enjoy your football-free weekend. We'll see you soon.